All right, so we are going to draw the nose next. A lot of people are apprehensive to draw the nose. Most of that becomes because it's just gradual shifts in value. We're not drawing like harsh lines like you would in an eye, an ear, mouth. Most of the nose is made of cartilage, so it's just soft shifts in value. So what we're going to do, make sure your name is at the top again. Noses all look different as well. Some people have wider noses, some are a little more thin. We're working with this one. Also, the angle of the nose is going to depend on how it's going to look. For your portraits, you really want to make sure you're choosing an image, unless you want to go with an image that I'm supplying you. You want to make sure your face that you're drawing is straight on so that you're dealing with something similar to this image. So what we're going to do, very lightly, we're going to try to recreate a similar sized sphere. So if you think of your nose with like a little ball on the end, go ahead and draw a small little circle. We want it to be roughly the same size though. A lot of people, whenever I teach noses, they end up with this tiny cute little nose that we can barely see. The reason we're starting larger than the actual full portrait you're going to draw is because I want you to be able to scale those things down. If you understand the concept with a larger drawing or a larger image, it'll be easier to scale down. Let me move this thing out of the way. There you go. All right, so the other thing we're going to do, I could have probably made that slightly larger, but you want a nice light valued circle. And then we're going to kind of draw the ridge of the nose. Want it to be equal on both sides. Notice I'm drawing very lightly for all of this so far. Just trying to get this fairly symmetrical. And another tip to remember is you want your paper to be nice and perpendicular to you. It's not leaning off to the side. You're looking straight on at it. All right, so we also need to get this shape in. So I'm going to add like these little U shapes on both sides. And then very lightly add, I guess, a smile. It kind of looks like a smile right now. Again, all of this is because there aren't any harsh lines other than the nostrils, so all we're doing is trying to plot in some shape for us to add value to. You'll notice that the outside of the nostrils kind of curve in. So I'm going to draw those shapes. And then we're going to add value around this. Just kind of do these little shapes so I know what direction our value is going to be. Some people will draw like a triangular or cone or a cylinder shape just so they know that the nose doesn't just, it's not a cute little baby nose, this is an adult nose. There is going to be some height to it. And then I like to start with the darkest areas. What is the darkest area of the nose?
Nostrils.
The nostrils, right? Because they're literally holes in your face. So it's going to be the darkest area, right? So what I like to do is go ahead and add some value. Now I'm saying this, and even though it's the darkest area, that doesn't mean you go from dark, black, and everything else is white. Otherwise, it's going to look like just holes in the face. We still need some other darker values. So I'm just plotting in the darkest value first, and then I'm going to kind of drag it. Let's plot that in. Use your cotton swab. Kind of blend some of these values. All right, we can't stop there, obviously. So I'm also going to, so since your nose sticks out from your face, right, more than any other facial feature, then it's going to have a shadow below your nostrils, okay? So go ahead and plot that in. It's not going to be as dark as your nostrils. It's still going to be a nice little shadow. It's important whenever you add this onto a portrait. If you've ever seen Napoleon Dynamite, has anyone ever seen Napoleon Dynamite? Okay, he does a portrait and he's like, he talks about it was really hard to add like the shading on your upper lip, but it looks kind of like a mustache, right? So it's important that if you're drawing someone and you want it to be a nice likeness and they don't have a mustache, that you don't make this part dark and then the rest of the face is light. Otherwise it's going to look very much like a mustache. So we want it to look natural, so it's just a little bit darker than the rest of the skin tones. Make it soft. Like I said, next time, whenever you are drawing your finished portrait, everyone will have a little tortillon to use. I just don't have enough for everyone to have one now and with the portrait. And then around the nostril, you'll see it's just slightly darker. I'm going to plot that in. I think the things people avoid most to draw if they're doing people or portraits is definitely the nose and then hands. Nose and hands. What's that? I will probably give you guys a break from drawing anything relating to the human. After portraits, we'll do something maybe colorful. And then, yes, we can definitely... I've seen some really cool tips. Some people have taken like a white glove and they draw different lines on it, and so you can practice drawing with proportions in basic geometric forms. So I also have different little hand models, wooden little models for hands as well. But hands are another great thing to practice drawing because a lot of people avoid drawing them, but even most cartoons have hands, right? All right, and we want this circle, or this what's going to be a little bit spherical. We want that to be subtle enough that whenever we start shading, it doesn't look like someone drew a circle on the nose. But if we're looking at these values, it's going to kind of dip up and around. So I'm just going to very carefully, softly add a little bit of value. And like I said, whenever we're drawing the eye, you want to very gradually add values if you have to go back and add more. That's totally fine. You need to be comfortable with erasing, adding value, back and forth. Okay, I'm going to add a little value to the edges of those nostrils. Always making sure you're shading, you're blending around the curves so that the end result looks round. Right, so you'll notice there's kind of like these little dips in the nostril here. So I'm just going to add a little bit of value there. Kind of branch it up. And then we will shade the bridge of the nose like a cylinder. Miss Mosey's room. Yes. Joy, you're being summoned to the counseling office. Right, and then same thing, we're gonna blend around. So we want this to look like it's actually sitting on a face. I'm going to try to complete everything in the next 5 minutes so that we can clean up with completed nose and an eye from today. Right, so then just very soft kind of give and take. And then this shouldn't be pure white, right? So I'm going to just drag in a little bit of value very softly. And then I'm going to make this look a little bit more rounded with some gray. Erase my circle if it's still showing too much. And then just kind of subtly blend some of these values. Right. And I know I need to darken a few things. So below here, we're going to touch things up. It's all on a matter of how dark you initially made your values. And I understand kind of that fear of making things too dark and not being able to erase. I understand that. Like, if you take that approach, just make sure once you have the values situated where you like them, that you kind of go back in and push the values where you need to. And a reminder, you'll have access to all of our 6B to 2H pencils when you're doing your portrait. So if there are areas you need to make lighter or darker, you'll have access to that. And I am leaving areas of the nose with some highlights because there are highlights in photo. Bless you. And then depending on where the light source is in the image you choose, you may see one area of the nose that's more highlighted than the other. So we'll look at all of that before, and I'll give you some tips whenever you're choosing a portrait, because you guys will use Google Images to choose an image for your portrait. I don't care if it's a celebrity, if it's someone you know, you just need to make sure you're choosing an image that's really clear and is going to give you all the information you need to recreate it. But it's not fuzzy, it's nice and crisp. All right?